Hey guys, I want to welcome you back to this series that we've been doing Origin Story. This week we are in week 3, and in this series we've been learning all about heroes and what heroes can do and how we can be heroes. And in this week we're going to focus on heroes are stronger when they're a part of a team. So let me ask you this question. Can you name a superhero that doesn't have a team? I'm going to give you a minute because I asked several people this question and they would come up with an answer like Batman. I'm like, Batman was on a team though. Or then they said like Superman. I'm like, no, Superman was on a team too. And as they kept kind of thinking, they had a really hard time trying to think of a superhero that doesn't have a team. Individually, they have their own superhero identity, but they also are part of a team that works together. I mean, if we look at a couple, here's the Justice League. We have the Flash, Aquaman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, Cyborg, who all individually do awesome and great things, but together they can accomplish so much more. Or we might have the group, the X-Men. They all have individual powers and mutations that make them who they are, but they work together to complete a mission, or they work together to kind of stop a group of people that they think are trying to destroy something or are doing evil things. And then we have the well-known Avengers. We look at this group, and Thor is a god and has amazing powers, but when you put him together with Captain America and the Incredible Hulk and Black Widow and Hawkeye and Iron Man, they can do amazing things. And they're so much stronger and better when they work together. And if we look at this group, the Guardians of the Galaxy, this group had no idea, like the Avengers, that they even should come together to work together. You have Rocket and Groot, who kind of started out, and then they kind of got together with Star-Lord and Gamora, and Drax kind of came into it, and Nebula and Mantis, and they even had Hondu who came in. And if we kind of look, they formed this group that worked together so well, even though they individually thought they didn't want to be a part of a group. If we kind of look, it says you can always accomplish more with the right team than you can accomplish on your own. That kind of comes true. And the first thing that comes to my mind when I think about that is the movie from the Avengers Endgame. You had in the Infinity Wars where Guardians of the Galaxy and the Avengers kind of got together and they were trying to destroy Thanos. And even though they're powerful, they just couldn't get the job done. But when you bring them all back together for Endgame, you had not just those two groups, but you had Black Panther's group, and you had Doctor Strange, and you had Captain Marvel, and all of these groups that came together and formed this huge army to destroy him. I mean, they were well off and had amazing powers to begin with, but when you put them all together, they were able to accomplish the unthinkable. See, sometimes trying to live heroically can be lonely work. But the good news is you're not alone. You just need to find your team. And just like the superheroes I just talked about who didn't even realize they were looking for a team, realize at the end that they need those teammates, that they're better when they work together with those teammates. So we're going to kind of look at a team that you're going to go, that really is a team? We're going to look at the disciples. And we're not just talking about the 12 disciples that Jesus has that were his closest friends. I'm going to talk about all of Jesus's disciples. And if we kind of look at it, there's 4 things that kind of were unique to this team. First of all, they were diverse. They were made of ordinary people. They had a mission that they were doing. And sometimes they struggled to get along. And that's with any team. I mean, if you're around enough people and you're all trying to work together, it's not going to go all peaches and roses and everything all the time. There's going to be some tension. There's going to be some conflict. And so we're going to kind of look at these a little bit more in depth as we go through this. The first thing is that Jesus' team was diverse. It was made up of fishermen and tax collectors, writers and preachers, people who were poor and people who were well off, people who had big faith and people like Doubting Thomas who had big questions. And it was made up of men and women, which is really unique because that was a whole different background that people would never have expected. I mean, in this group, you had different levels of popularity, success, faith. Not everyone was from the same culture or region, and they didn't always get along. But they were still part of that same team. And there was a reason that he did this. Jesus chose this team of people who were all very different from each other because They each had their own skills. Their differences were to their advantage. Jesus' team was stronger because of the many types of people that he had, the different perspectives that they brought to it, the skills that they had, and the different personalities that were represented. I mean, think about the groups that we just talked about. When you think about the Avengers, Hawkeye is an amazing shot with a bow and arrow. But you have Hawk who goes around and smashes things and kind of destroy, and his strength and the size is something that Hawkeye can't compare to. But he has that straight shot when you need protection, or you're trying to defeat that enemy. He's the one that you're going to count on. And you even kind of think of it, you have Iron Man who has the knowledge and the skills, who has all the technology part of it. I mean, again, they each bring a different perspective to the team, and all of those are required to get the mission done. The next thing about Jesus' team is that they were original. They were controversial and subversive. And that's because Jesus surrounded himself with people who weren't usually considered the best of the best. I mean, he grabbed the people that sometimes were like, they're the lowest of the lowest. And they're like, you want them to be a part of your team? And he goes, yeah. The disciples weren't most likely people who didn't qualify to have lucrative or respective careers. I mean, look, he chose a tax collector. Nobody wanted to be a tax collector because they stole from people and they had this worst reputation. Yet he chose them to be a part of his team. And as I said, the men and women part of it, that was unheard of. Nobody would have thought of having women to do essential things and be a part of your team, but he wanted them to be a part of it. And they did intricate things for him. And they provided the food and the hospitality and were doing things for him that were necessary and essential to his team. In 1 Corinthians, I want you to look and see what it says. It says, brothers and sisters, think of what you were when you were called. Not many of you were wise by human standards. Not many were influential. Not many were of noble birth. But God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. God chose the lowly things of this world and the despised things and the things that are not to nullify the things that are, so that no one may boast before him. It is because of him that you are in Christ Jesus, who has become for us wisdom from God. That is our righteousness, holiness, and redemption. Therefore, as it is written, let the one who boast in the Lord. I want you to think about what that says there. All the different types of people that Jesus chose. He's telling them, you are in this because you're a part of God's team. You were chosen to be a part of this team, not because you're the best of the best. You take that and you become the best when you become a part of God's team. He's going to use your skills. He's going to use you to do something great. And that leads us to the second thing about his team. The disciples were on a mission. They healed people. They introduced them to the good news of Jesus. They casted out demons. They did things for people and fed them and all these different things. And their mission was very, very clear. In Matthew 28, Jesus gave them this mission. It says, then the 11 disciples went to Galilee to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. And when they saw him, they worshiped him, but some doubted. Then Jesus came to them and said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. That passage is called the Great Commission. See, before Jesus left earth, he gave his team one last mission. And it's a mission that you and I are still invited to be a part of today. He wants us to go out and share that good news. He wants to tell them. He wants us to tell them about him and how they can be baptized and be a part of this family that God has created. So that way they can live in heaven forever. If we look at the next thing, the disciples, not only were they diverse, not only were they, out there on a mission, but just like with any team, they struggled to get along. Jesus' team of followers started growing the more that he was going around and doing miracles and the more that he was teaching. And as more and more people came, there was more and more perspectives and customs and opinions that came together. And just like with anything, tensions began to rise. people began to disagree with each other, or they would kind of bicker with each other. And if we kind of look, this is the perfect verse that I want you to remember, because it was given to those disciples that said, you need to do this. And it still makes sense to us today. It says in Hebrews, make every effort to live in peace with everyone and to be holy. Without holiness, no one will see the Lord. See to it that no one falls short of the grace of God, and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. I mean, think about what that verse says. It is hard sometimes when you're working with people to always get along, to kind of see their perspective. But it tells us here it was just as important for the disciples to see that, because could you imagine if they were just bickering and arguing all the time? What would have gotten accomplished? People would have looked at that and said, why am I going to go follow this guy? Why should I believe anything you have to say about Jesus? All you guys do is bicker and fight. And when you do that, you're not completing that mission that he gave to us. When we do that, we are showing them the same thing. It says, make every effort to live in peace with everyone. See to it that no one falls short of the grace of God, and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble. Don't go around bickering with people and fighting with people, because that's going to be causing other people to stumble, and it's going to be causing you to stumble. See, the author of Hebrews knew how important it was for Jesus' followers to work together, to find that common ground and to resolve their conflicts, because their mission was so much bigger than their differences. And as I just said, ours is too. Like the Avengers, there are big wrongs that we can help make right in Jesus' name. But if we can't find a way to work together, we'll never be able to see our mission accomplished, because we're going to be too busy arguing and bickering. As I kind of think about this and wrap this up, I want you guys to think heroes are stronger when they're on a team. There's so much more that can get accomplished. Even the disciples needed more on their team, the different perspectives. So the question is, what do we need to know about our team? Well, let's think about it. Heroes know that when they blend their unique powers and skills, they're so much more likely to succeed in their mission. Heroes don't need to outdo or outshine each other, because they know their combined qualities can achieve more together. We look at the Avengers, and sometimes they think they're better off on their own. And what do they find out? No, it works much better when you work together. You think Iron Man on himself, you're Tony Stark, you can do it all. But you find out that he can't. He needs the help of the other Avengers to complete that bigger mission. So who's on your team? Think about the people who are around you. Who are the people that are in your inner circle, the ones that you rely on the most, the ones you go to for advice? Who are the people that you talk to outside of that inner circle? You kind of meet in the hallways, or when you go to the grocery store, or are people that, are kind of in that middle side kind of circle? And do you have people that are in your outer circle that you talk to? Because your team needs to be diverse like Jesus's team. You have people from different backgrounds, different experiences, different cultures and genders. If you're only surrounding yourself with the people who are just like you, you might be missing the different perspectives that are out there. Is it filled with ordinary people? Do you have some people who are popular, not so popular, people who are artsy, musical, people who are super smart, not so smart? Maybe you have athletic, rich people, poor people, older people, younger people, people of different races. I mean, just like on Jesus's team, you need to surround yourself with people that you can go out there and reach a whole group of people. If you're only surrounding yourself with the ones, like I said, that are just like you, and you're not really using that diverse, you're not going to be able to reach as many people. You're not going to be able to complete the mission that he wants us to complete. Learning to work together and get along is hard work, but it's work that serves a greater purpose. When we learn to act like a team, we can better accomplish our mission. If you're a follower of Jesus, you're already on this team. And our team has been given a mission to save the world. It's a big mission because it's God's mission. He said in that Great Commission, go out and teach the world, baptize them in our name, show them what I'm all about. He told that to the disciples, and he's telling that to us. But again, if we are trying to do it just by ourselves and not working together as a team, it's not going to go very well. We need to learn to work together to get everybody a part of God's team so that way we can reach more people. We need those 4 things that I talked about, the diversity, the ordinary people. We need to know that each of our different perspectives is needed to work together. And yeah, there might be some struggles at time, but if we can kind of remember that verse in Hebrews and say, if we can keep the peace with them, then we can get our mission done. So this week I want you to kind of think, who's on your team? Do you need to add some more people? Do you even have a team? Are you completing the mission that God wants you to? Are you being a light to the world and telling other people about God? Because if you are doing that, then maybe you can kind of think about who's going to be a part of your team. Who can you add to it? Because heroes are stronger together when they're on a team.